Introduction. Over recent decades in the niche of media economics, there has been a growing awareness that economics aspects of the media, such as efficient media productions, matching users' wants and needs with media supply, media market structures, and the economic sustainability of media industries are sufficiently uncertain as well as important to warrant specific analysis. So one apparent reason for the academic neglect of economic considerations in media is that media studies are often aimed at informing either future content creation and production professionals such as creative journalists and editors or outside observers like theorists, media critics, and the media public itself, rather than, for instance, media business managers, investors, or trade union or official. So historically, private media company owners themselves often regarded their media activities not so much as a business, but rather as a means to secure social, cultural, or political status. This appears to have reinforced the tendency to treat economics factors as contextual rather than as endogenous element of media studies. So we will be talking about the variety of approaches in old and new issues of media economics, in which over the past few decades the field has evolved to encompass a variety of approaches. This went hand in hand with growing commercializations of mass media and the rising consolidations and concentrations of media firms from the 1950s and 1960s onward, and with marked acceleration since the 1980s. Traditional topics in media economics. First being the consumer preferences and behavior. One aspect of this literature is that the measurement and modeling of consumer and advertiser spending on media. So as a prominent example, McCombs in 1972 famously formulated the principle of relative constancy (PRC) in relation to media expenditures. This principle holds that the spending on mass media by both consumers and advertisers is determined by the general state of the economy, that is, represents a relatively fixed proportions of all expenditures. It has helped to focus attention on the substitutions effects between products of the same type of mass media, even if they have quite dissimilar characteristic in terms of content, as well as between the different types of media, even if they have different functional characteristic. So another application is that it has been used to predict the success of new media technologies, which have to compete with old media for consumers and advertisers' money as well as attentions. So another aspect is the determinations of user preferences in relations to media programming and diversity. So ever since the seminal work of Hotelling in 1929, the issue of whether and how diversity can be the outcome of market processes has been high on many researchers' agendas. So Hotelling provided a schematic versions of a market in which two competitors establish themselves along an axis of consumer preferences. So it is easy to understand that the most beneficial outcome for society would be that the competitors positions themselves away from each other along the axis, each capturing around 50% of the market but providing dissimilar products. In that way, competitions will ensure that there is a diverse market offering catering to the different consumer preferences along the scale. However, Hotelling argued that the risk of having one of the competitors moving towards the center of the axis and thus capturing more than half of the market share will force both competitors to move to the center, quite likely leading to the same result in terms of market share, which is each competitor capturing 50% of the market but now with an almost exactly similar product.
Industrial organization and media concentration. Industrial organizations is the second topic that attracts the media economist's attention. The framework employed is often that of an industrial organizations is mostly focused on the structure, conduct, and performance of particular markets and industries. To analyze media markets in this way, the important aspect include the number of sellers and buyers in the market, product the differentiation barriers to entry, cost structure, and the degree of vertical integrations are in industrial organization. Move on to the media concentration. This refers to two basic questions. That is, whether the media is operated by a private companies, non-profit organization, or the public sector, and whether the media provision is dominated by a small number of organizations or not. It also have additional meaning and importance, especially in media broadcast markets. Entry has historically been constrained by both technology and regulatory factors related to the scarcity of spectrum or limited capacity of narrowband networks and public monopoly of broadcast licensing system, and also it has media bias and diversity in media markets, as stated famously by schools in 1984. The second law of journalism: the contents of the media always reflect the interests of those who finance them by using their powerful media empire influence to advance their own political or other agendas. It is also have media ownership. This may refer to both the ownership of media company passing into the hands of financial groups and hedge funds, and to the perceived lack of critical media reporting on the banking sector and the global financial crisis. The specific nature of media economics: divergence from common assumptions. The first assumption is from the neoclassical economic assumption. The, the neoclassical economic assumptions main objectives are efficient production, distribution and consumption of scarce goods. It tends to focus on private goods and their products are homogeneous. Meanwhile, the media economic are the second common assumptions. The main objectives are, besides the efficiency, quality, diversity, pluralism and innovations. Information and opinions are not really scarce. Information goods have a semi-public character, and their products are unique. Despite the difference, many of the outer sites above fall in line with the statement of FICA 2006 that in a technical sense there is no such thing as media economics, because it implies that the economics law and theories for media are different than for the other entities. Media economics is a specific application of economics law and theories to media industry and firms.
Next is market failure. In economics, the term market refers to a virtual place where supply and demands meet. Its main characteristic is decentralized, self-organized coordination of supply and demand via the process of competition. Price signal set incentive for individual suppliers and customers to adjust their individual production and consumption plan in a way that the market supply and market demand move toward each other in terms of quantities. The new media is considered more effective than the old media because the new media has involved the computer technology, internet, and smartphone. The new media has a variety of process through application used by many. Meanwhile, the old media like book, newspaper, magazine, film, sound recording, radio and television are not interesting. Economy of scale and scope. Economy of scope and economy of scale are two different concepts used to help to cut a company's costs. Economies of scope focuses on the average total of cost of production of a variety of goods. Meanwhile, the economy of scale focuses on the cost advantage that arises when there is a higher level of production of one's good.
Unpredictable and time-dependent demand. Next to the specific characteristics associated with media supply, there are also a number of particularities related to the demand for media. The impact this has on media provisions is that the media is in constant need of differentiations and innovations, but at the same time, large traditional media companies will be very much driven, some would say obsessed, by the quest for the mainstream hit. This inherent conflict is at the root of the particular behavior observed in so many media businesses. Typically, media executives will strive to increase the chances of producing a blockbuster by increasing control over the creative output. A second peculiarity of media consumption is that it is very much time dependent. This not only refers to the fact that media demand is subject to fashions and bandwagon effects, for mostly to the fact that media consumption is for most people related to a specific time of day. The concept of prime time is related to the limited time window that exists for media companies during which they need to compete intensively for people's attention. Platformization. Platformization refers to which industry and market structures can be expected in the new media economy. This shows how changing market structures can challenge long-standing legal frameworks and policy practices, and how later can affect market and structures in turn. The interchangeable components allow many buyers to share the benefits on the same technical advance, introducing additional network effects into the economics of the platforms, and causing them to be hard to start and hard to stop, but generally easy to maintain. In conclusion, the topics on media economics refer to consumer preferences and behavior on the one hand, and industrial organizations and media concentrations on the other. While the outcomes of such an upheaval are still uncertain, it is safe to say that the interplay between these old and new issues in media economics ensures a dynamic and fascinating field of study for the time ahead.